At the Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange. If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park.
It's the month of May and we're back home again. No, not in Indiana. We're in Deutschland. A win at the only German track on the series schedule will be highly coveted, so expect some fierce fights at the front. Let's see who gets the W on this car's native soil as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 Club Class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Cameron Aubernon is on social media with Gary Sexton producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But before we get to the racing, Series 10 is brought to you by the Porsche Exchange, which has been family-owned and operated for over 40 years. Located on the North Shore of Chicago, the Porsche Exchange has grown to be the largest volume Porsche dealer in the entire Midwest. Along the way, they've won the Porsche Premier Dealership Award for many years in a row and has been chosen to be one of the few Porsche exclusive manufacturer dealerships in the entire country. Find out more at forporsche.com or follow them on Instagram at Porsche Exchange. Also, Six Sigma Sim Racing is proud to announce the Season 10 Clean Driver Award. One driver in each PCA Sim Racing class will win a Six Sigma Sim Racing $250 merchandise gift certificate. This goes to whoever earns the fewest incident points and license penalty points from their best 6 races this season. For more information, head to sixsigmasimracing.com. All right, DJ, we're here at Hockenheim for the first of our 4 races that we cover on the channel. This should be a fun one, and like I said, kind of personal.
Yeah, very much so. This is one of the homegrown territories of Porsche, so these drivers should know it very, very well. Now, there's plenty of great overtaking opportunities around this circuit. Look for the main ones being going down into the Spitzkehre there at turn 6, or down into that Mercedes Arena section. We'll see a lot of side through there. But as you come down through the Mobil 1 curve into the Sachs curve in the back half of this circuit, you've got to be very, very careful. That's the part of the circuit that really retains the old school nature of it. Very tight runoff there. You step a tire off into the gravel, you're going to find yourself into the outside, and there was very little room for error.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of little room for error, if we take a look at the championship, Robbie Prescott's been doing pretty good, and he's built himself at least a healthy lead. But Christopher Cook outscored him last time. He's closed that down to less than 100 points between them now. Although Kerry Brooks is also one to watch out for, looking pretty strong in that last race, at least comparatively to Suzuka and Spa, kind of bouncing back a little bit. He kind of needs that to get back into the hunt. From there, it's an incredibly close fight for 6th, 7th, and 8th, as well as, honestly, you could throw 9th in there with Lyle Eddy. But there, Peter Sigourney, Jochen Baker, Mario Gonzalez, all kind of scrabbling for those lower half positions in the top 10. Certainly will be fascinating here in the last couple rounds of the series. Now, before we get to the racing, a reminder that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. Now, we are waiting for the last of the qualifying times to come in here, as we've got just a couple minutes left, and they get 4 laps total to try and set one, DJ. And I got to wonder if having a good start position is going to be important, not necessarily for the track position, but just trying to stay out of trouble on that standing start into turn 1.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a very, very big thing. For those that don't really know Hockenheim, think of turn 1 a little bit like Cops Corner at Silverstone. It's very fast, very flowing, and very, very easy to run into one another. So we could see a big coming together down through that corner.
Absolutely. And with everybody trying to sort themselves out, not being separated that much, could wind up being a bit of a problem. Now, currently, Chris Cook has the provisional pole, and Kerry Brooks is a little bit more than a tenth behind, but we're watching the 777 here of Mario Gonzalez, who sits down in 19th currently. He comes around the south curve. Doesn't look like he's going to be improving from what I can see, and he definitely will not with a spin like that. And that is his last lap, so his qualifying is now done.
That's not what he wants to see there, and they're going to have to be very, very careful getting the power on here through some of these slow speed corners. I would not be surprised if we see a little bit of that wheel spin coming back to bite these drivers. You got to be very, very careful.
Absolutely. Looks like Kerry Brooks is not going to be able to take the pole away. Last lap did not take him up to the top spot. Seeing if anybody else close to that position is able to make anything up. And it doesn't look like that is going to be the case. So we've got about a minute left here, and then we are done. And they cannot complete their hot lap. So if you don't come around in time to finish that fourth lap, you can't wrap it up. You've got to get it done before the clock hits 0.
Yeah, you've really got to make sure you are on it. You cannot have a problem around here. And Joe, I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head. You've got to be very, very careful about going through those first couple of corners, because it's not just that first one that we can see a little bit of a problem. Going down into the parabolic entry can be a little bit of a problem as well, and we're always going to see a little bit of a stack up going down into the Spitzkehre.
Indeed. Well, looks like I think the grid is set at this point with about 15 seconds left on the clock. So I think that might be it for our qualifying grid. Indeed, yeah, nobody else can get to the line in time from here. So why don't we go through our starting order here for today's events. Chris Cook managing to take the pole position. Remember, those qualifying times will get you bonus points here. So qualifying position, rather. And Kerry Brooks will be starting in second. Apologies that we don't have this on screen, but we'll still read them through you audibly. Robbie Prescott third and Chad Dick in P4. It'll be Peter Sigourney in fifth, followed by Scott Kessel in sixth and Lyle Eddy in P7. Ben Leong starts eighth, Peter Kummer in ninth, and David Snelling will be 10th.
Well,
then from there, it is Robert Walton in 11th. Joachim Baker will be P12. Mark Rondeau starts 13th. Mark Lacombe P14, followed by Matthew Yokel in 15th. Kim Fricke starts in the 16th position. Richard Franco, P17 for him, followed by Gary Reese in 18th. And Mario Gonzalez 19th. Martin Wallace rounds out your top 20. After that, J.R. Gregory will be 21st. Aaron Ambrosino 22nd. And Scott Bowers in at 23rd. Trip Starkey P24. Jeremy Mazzariello will start in the quarter century mark. Derek Derrickson will be on his outside. Patrick Adamczyk in at 27th. And Sebastiano Ballestieri in at 28th. Mike Matson 29th. And Chris Sherburn then in 30th. And then the last 9, Tong, Holmes, Glenn, Witt, Krebs, Haman, Davis, James, and Harrison, the last of your field, waiting for them to get themselves onto the grid. Relatively warm track today at 101 degrees Fahrenheit, DJ, so hopefully that won't wreak too much havoc on the cars.
I think it'll be a little bit of a problem as the race goes along, Joe. At the beginning, I think it's going to be a little bit of a boon to these drivers to be able to have a little bit more heat to be able to generate. They're not going to have to work nearly as hard off of this standing start to get those tires up to temperature.
And the green flag is out. Apologies that we don't have pictures currently, but I can tell you that Crook is leading Brooks down to the first turn as they come down towards the parabolic entry now. Looks like Brooks is not going to be able to attack into that first heavy braking zone behind them. Looking pretty orderly, a little bit of 3 wide at the very, very back. And I saw a tiny bit of contact at the final portions of the field, rather. Otherwise, we head down the Parabolica with everybody still rolling.
Yeah, and this is where that big draft is going to come into play here as they tuck up behind one another. The car in front pushing the air out of the way. Doesn't look like we're seeing too many moves here at the moment going down into the Spitzkehre. Remember, this season the emphasis has been placed on clean driving, and we're certainly seeing that come to play here right now.
Saw Ambrosino a little bit slow out of the Parabolica entry, but it looks like he is still going, so whatever happened to him didn't cause too much damage. Otherwise, up at the front, already out of the Mercedes arena, that is Cook in the 47 leading this race. Brooks behind him in P2 in the 77. Robbie Prescott there in P3 in the number 1. Prescott currently leading the points championship. He does not need to be up at the front, but of course that would make life a little bit more comfortable for him.
Yeah, it certainly would, but we got plenty of time left to go in this race. With the track temperatures as hot as they are, I think tire temperatures are going to be a big thing here today. A tire wear as well. They're going to have to keep it under control.
All right, we complete lap 1, and so far we do still have everybody out on the track as our leaders come back into the North Curve once again, this time pretty much single file here at the top of the field. It is all spreading out fairly well, and the first decent gap that we've got is probably down to 5th with Peter Sigourney back there in that 2:22. In fact, you can see how close it's getting there between the orange and gray car of Chad Dick and Robbie Prescott and the blue and red just in front of him.
Yeah, starting to close down a little bit here as they go. And again, patience is going to be the key. Plenty of overtaking opportunities to be able to have on this circuit. You just got to be patient. Really nail the exit here out of the Parabolica entry. And it doesn't look like anybody did it here at this point. But coming down here to the Mercedes Arena section, this is the area for that fight back.
All right, well, as they come through into Mercedes once again, seems like Cook is managing it well. We've had a problem with Scott Bowers, though, down in 27th, and he's facing the wrong way. There he is in the background. Someone else slow, it looks like, down on the inside in the green car, but the 917 trying to wait patiently for an opening, and finally he's got it.
Yeah, and he's got to wait there at that point, Joe, because he needs to let all the cars by. It looks like it was a big coming together. I think this could have been a little bit of contact coming down into the Parabolica itself.
Yep, here we go. Here's the replay. And gonna guess that green car that we saw slow somehow involved here. A little bit of help tipping off the corner. And, oh, we couldn't quite make it through in time. Just got collected slightly. See if I can figure out who that is that got a piece of it. I think it may have been Mazzariello, who is now in 26. Bowers all the way down to 36, unfortunately. But there is Cook back up at the front once again. A second and a half now ahead of Kerry Brooks, certainly keeping him at bay.
Yeah, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do here at this point, Joe. Getting that 1.5 second advantage, that's going to allow him to be able to break the draft a little bit, not have to worry about being towed along there, having those cars towed behind him. It's going to allow him to have a nice little Wednesday night drive up at the front of the field.
As they come into the braking of the Spitzkura once again, still very nose to tail here for P2, 3, and 4 between Brooks, Prescott, and Dick. We're looking back off the back of our leader of Chris Cook. That is the distance that we're dealing with very early on, looking very much in the hands of that number 47. Now we watch from Brooks's perspective to see if these two can put on a challenge. Again, Prescott isn't really under any sort of urgency right now. He looks like he's got this very solidly under control, but any more points that he can put between himself and his rivals just makes it that much easier in the final 2 races.
Exactly. It's all about being able to get those incidents together, getting those points together. You got to think about the long run here at this point, and so getting that to play here at this point is exactly what he's going to be thinking about.
All right, coming off the south curve once again, they cross the timing line, getting ready to start lap 4. And as they head into the braking of the north curve, a little bit too far back for Prescott, I think, for an attack on that 77 down into the Parabolica entry this time. So they're just going to have to try again a little bit later. Checking to see if we have any closer battles farther back in the field, because this seems to be in a bit of a deadlock up at the front right now. Everybody just kind of keeping each other at arm's length. So maybe they're waiting for something to kick off a little bit later. Of course, we do have pit stops later on in this race, DJ.
Yes, we do, and that's going to be a big change here. We're going to see a little bit of strategy play out in that on when you're going to want to come down into pit lane, how that's going to affect things, and how that is going to run. I think at this point, for the 47 up at the front of the field, he's not going to have any problems if he continues to run like this, but watch for some alternate strategy here to play out for these contenders here for P3.
Still remaining a little uncomfortably close there between them. Did see Terrence Tong, I think, just lost a spot to Richard Franco. That's down in 20th position. And that's going to bump Franco back up one. He's lost a multiple since the start of this race, unfortunately. And watching second, third, and fourth continue on down into the stadium section. Prescott has been hovering about 3/10 behind Brooks since pretty much the start of this race. And look at how tight he gets there. In fact, that time, I think he took a little bit of a look down the inside.
Yeah, I think he was trying to maybe just push him out a little bit, see if he can find an area where there can be a little bit of an advantage to be had. It's good heads up here from Robbie Prescott. He's not trying to go for an overtake here. He's just poking and prodding on Brooks to see if he can maybe force the slightest bit of error.
Not able to do anything this time down into the Parabolica entry. Going to have to try and see if he can get a little bit of a better exit here. Maybe a bit of slipstream down the back stretch. But no, he's not really gaining just tiny little bits. Unless he does something drastic here, he could maybe go for it down into the Spitzkura. He is going to take a big look. Can he get to the inside? No. Doesn't seem to really have it this time. And that gives a much better exit to Brooks, who starts to sprint away off the corner. We got a fierce battle back here as well. That is the car of Robert Walton being chased by Baker and Snelling. This is for 9th place.
Yeah, very close here indeed, and this is coming down to that Mercedes Arena section. Now watch for moves coming down there, sweeping that momentum around out to the inside line there as they go. We didn't see it there at that point, but that's one of the best overtaking maneuvers you can really make on the track.
Yeah, from here it's going to be so difficult down into the stadium portion, here through Mobile 1 into the Sachs curve. So he keeps Joachim Baker a little bit too far back to try and do anything here, it appears, and they will stay single file down into that 180-degree left-hander. Just a little bit of a weave back and forth through the chicane, then into the south curve. And very good exit here for Snelling in that red car, the number 12 back there, but he doesn't quite get the run down the front stretch. I don't think he's going to have anything here coming up soon.
I don't think he's going to have it here at this moment, but patience, patience, patience. That is all the key here at this moment. As we jump back to watch on board with this 66 of Kim Fricke here under a little bit of pressure. Oh, we got a car off in the background.
That's Peter Kummer in the 333. Unfortunately, and he has to take a tow. Not sure what happened, but it must have been bad enough damage that his day is over. So into the pits he goes. Now, they do have a spare car, and he can use that if he's desperate to try and collect whatever points he can from attrition, but he's very much out of the hunt. Here is a replay of the action. This is going to be into the first turn, so we might need a little bit here before we get to it.
Yeah, we might, but we could get an idea if maybe that 333 was just feeling a little bit out of sorts here before they went on down in. Take a look here, coming down into the Sachs curve. A banked corner here, relatively easy if you get the braking zone right, but if you're a little bit off as they go, it can really, really throw you off a little bit as they come down. Here he comes now through the penultimate corner, down through that final corner. I'm not seeing anything there necessarily, Joe.
It happens in turn 1 in the north curve here, I believe, because he was on the exit where he was off. Oh, a lot of that inside curb and couldn't collect it. Oh, and he got a big help from somebody. I didn't see who that was that just plowed into him, but that basically ended his day. And we do have a black flag for J.R. Gregory. I don't know if that was the car involved in it, but it looks like there's going to be a drive-through for J.R. Gregory, unfortunately. That's the 218, and he is in pit lane already. No, it was not the car that hit him, so this was some separate incident that we must have missed.
I'm not sure there what happened to him either. But we watch here a little bit of a battle going on right now. That's the 222 getting chased down by the 79 here at that point as they come down through the Parabolica. Watch for that run here. There's the poke to the inside. Going to have to be a little bit later on the binders. Thinking better of it and backing off here. Good call. Was only 11 minutes down in this race.
That's Lyle Eddy in the 79 on the 222 of Peter Sigourney. No change of position as we jump back to Ben Leung and the 290. That might have actually been the car. Yeah, that looks like the paint scheme we saw, the Brumos livery that got a piece of him. But I don't see major damage on the nose from what we get in our pictures here. So he might actually be all right. That is currently Walton behind him. We were following that battle earlier along with Baker and Snelling close in tow. There might be a little damage there, I can see, DJ.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like that splitter's just a little bit crinkled there for Ben Leung, so that's going to affect him a little bit on corner turn-in particular, and there we see a prime example of it coming down into the Sachs curve. You see how that car just didn't quite get down to the apex? That is what he is going to be struggling with here at this point, and the drivers behind him, Walton, Baker, Snelling, they're going to recognize they're going to want to pounce.
Absolutely. So as Snelling continues to ride behind here in the number 12, he keeps the pressure on Baker. Into the north curve they go, just as it looks like that is Peter Krumar on the inside, who is exiting out of pit lane, but he does a great job staying out of the way of the drivers, making sure not to interrupt this fight down into the parabolic entry. Still single file. Snelling might have some trouble behind. Look at that great car. That's Marc Rondeau starting to get ever closer.
Yeah, he's starting to sneak his way in there, and that's some good running from Marc Rondeau, just recognizing some attrition up in front of him and trying to take advantage right now. He's going to be closing back on that number 12 right now. One of my favorite liveries, by the way, with that sort of Eddie Van Halen tribute. Always been one of my favorites here in the Porsche, in the PCA. Comes down through the corner. Again, Rondeau not going for the move, but watch for him here. Looks like he's got a pretty good run coming down out of the Parabolic. We could see something in the Mercedes arena.
Let's see if he can try and sneak that one in. Not looking like it from how far back he is now. And indeed, the 35 is going to stay put. Marc Lacombe just sitting in there in that orange and black car as well, waiting for that to erupt, hoping that maybe they will start to fight and managed to get him somewhat closer on them. Only a quarter of the way into this race, and while we could see pit stops at this stage and drivers make it to the end, we do not anticipate them pitting until much later. Usually the early stops only come until about halfway as we check in with our leader. Cook now up to about 2.5 seconds away.
Yeah, about 2.5 seconds away. He is just doing absolutely everything that he can do here at this point. And for Brooks, he's starting to get a little bit of breathing room there over Peter Sigourney, as it looks like there that they've got that breathing room back there. That's going to allow for two things to happen, Joe. That's going to allow them to battle a little bit more, and it may also allow here for them to close in on your leader just a little bit.
Boy, we've had a lot of stuff happening off screen here because we've had a black flag for both Martin Wallace and, well, we announced the one for J.R. Gregory, but Gregory is out and Trip Starkey has also retired when we weren't looking. So a lot of stuff happening out there on track. This is Wallace here. He's down in 16th. Not sure what it was for. And it just says incident at 3:59. So I'll see if I can check that out in a bit and figure out what exactly he got involved in. Look at the traffic in front of him, though. It was getting tight there between Matthew Yokel in the 18 and Marc Lacombe in the 19.
Yeah, a little bit of that coming in together. Is right on board with Martin Wallace right now, trying to close down on that pack up ahead of him to see if he's going to be able to get anything to go. He's going to be hoping for a real big battle to erupt there in front of him coming down through these corners. And as I said, it's particularly down through this Mercedes arena section, we can see those battles really fire off.
Let's see if I could try and find what happened to Wallace, but it must have been very early in the race based on that timer. So not exactly able to find it quite yet. And unfortunately for him, it's going to put him well down the field. Now Volker Krebs has had an issue as we look at Terrence Tong here in the 388. And this is the battle for 19th or 20th rather. And there is Volker Krebs getting the car rolling once again. This was out of the Mercedes arena, and I think he actually had some help from Mario Gonzalez on this incident.
All right, let's take a look here at the replay coming down there. It looked like a little bit of a rough angle there. Oh, I think that was a self-incident there from Volker. It looks like he came up onto the curbing as he tried to put the power down. And as we've talked about, with no traction control in these cars, that rear end just kind of got a little bit displaced there. Yeah, understeers down into the corner, tries to get the power down on the curbs. That sends him around, and I think the contact there was just a little incidental that he didn't expect him to be slowing down that much.
Yeah, it's understandable in that situation. We'll see if the stewards try to do something with him as we are watching Martin Wallace pit in and take and serve his penalty. Also, Peter Kummer now given a black flag for causing an incident a little bit earlier. So interesting that we're starting to see more and more of them kick off. It is a large field. It's going to be hard to stay out of each other.
Yeah, it very, very much is. And, we talked about at the beginning how difficult this was going to be coming down through the first couple of corners. Oh, it was a big car going off there down through the section. That's going to be the number one machine. Prescott making a little bit of an error.
Ooh, and at least he gathers it up before it goes into the barrier, but he's going to lose positions as we check out the replay into Mobile 1. Oh, too much of the inside curb. It gets loose. He does a good job of trying to keep it from going worse or hitting another car, but now he has fallen to sixth position.
And there he's, ooh, that's a little bit almost an unsafe rejoin there for him trying to get back on the circuit. Very, very tough running there for him. He is not going to be happy with that.
And here's where it starts to get dangerous for him. Fifth place earns you 200, sixth place earns you 250 points. A win is 350. That's even before we start counting the points for qualifying. So remember I said it was a little less than 100 points? He actually could lose the points lead here at this rate.
Oh, and he's got to be careful about that. He does not want to run afoul of running into those problems. That's exactly the kind of thing here at Hockenheim that can really take out, is just making those little errors. I mean, how many times have we seen in real life, Joe, drivers having those problems, going down into that very, very area? It is such a common area to make that mistake.
As we take a look at some of our onboards, this was down into the Spitzkura. I think Rondeau was actually trying to make a pass on Walton, and in the process, poor Joachim Baker just kind of wound up the innocent victim.
And that's another problem here. Down through some of these sections, these are actually the old sections of the track. Remember, this used to be a long blast through the woods here, and it used to be very, very old school in the way that it goes. And the Mercedes Arena section down through Mobile 1, those sections still retain a little bit of that, so they're a little bit tighter, a little bit closer, and a little bit close confines.
Absolutely. It's now into the stadium here, watching the battle between the car of Terrence Tong here in the 388 and Derek Dirksen in the number 24. This is for 19th position. There's Tong and his webcam playing a good defense for now, but he's got a train starting to form. That's David Glenn behind him and Sebastiano Ballestieri.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Lyle Eddy just had an issue with Chad Dick. That was up at the front of the field. That's going to gift a position to Prescott and Sigourney, and they're off the course. That is Lyle Eddy in the 79, wandering a long ways off.
Very, very long ways off, and that looks like it's coming through the second part of the Parabolica entry. So let's take a look at this. All right, little bit of back and forth there coming over the corners. We're going to be side by side coming down to the Parabolica entry. A little bit earlier on the binders there as they try to turn in. I think this is going to be on the right-hander. Oh, I've got a feeling of a pinch coming on here, Joe. Oh, looks like that's exactly what happened.
Wow. And yeah, cars slowed, unfortunately, by trying to avoid that incident. And that actually gave Prescott at least one spot back over Chad Dick, but not over Peter Sigourney. And this battling that we've been seeing here in these incidents have now moved them 8 seconds just behind Kerry Brooks. And was that was Peter Sigourney almost looking like he was lifting, or did he have a mistake there?
I'm not sure. He may have had a little bit of an error there, maybe just a little bit of traction control that he, loss of traction rather, that he was trying to back off from. Let's watch this. This is down. Oh no, he just went wide, coming down into this into the Sachs curve, a la Sebastian Vettel from a few years ago. But unlike Vettel, he was able to catch it and keep it on the right side of the road.
Wow. Prescott back into third place where he was before. That's impressive stuff. Sometimes you just got to keep your nose clean, I guess, and that gifted him a few positions. But as I was saying, it's 8 seconds up to Kerry Brooks in second place. It's 13 seconds up the lead with Chris Cook. Unless those top two have some major issues, which, as we've seen, is not impossible, I think third might be the most likely goal here for Robbie.
Yeah, I think that's probably all he can hope for at this point, but he's got to focus in and just hold on to this position. That is the biggest thing here at this point. He cannot afford to make any sort of error here. He has got to keep all 4 tires on the black stuff, and with 38 minutes left to go, that is easier said than done.
Oof, not exactly the Oprah Winfrey giveaway that I think the stewards were hoping for today. Volker Krebs gets a black flag. Marc Rondeau gets a black flag. Just about everybody is getting a black flag today, unfortunately, and we're seeing a number of them have to come down to pit lane to serve that. Let's hope that things start to get a little bit more cleaned up. We've only lost Starkey and Gregory, who I mentioned earlier. Everybody else is still running, although I do see Krebs and Haman in pit lane, but Krebs, obviously, we know, is in serving a penalty at this stage. As once again, we take a look at some of the fights here between Walton, Baker, Lacombe, and Yokel.
Yeah, and this is starting to fire off here a little bit at this point. Let's see if anyone's going to do. Walton gets a really good run there out of the south curve, so he's going to run up here, try to get a little bit of distance. But part of the problem here that some of these drivers here for 8th, 9th, 10th are going to run into at this point, Joe, is they're going to have a draft train forming. And that basically means that, whoa, is Yokel's going to try to break that draft train on the move down to the Parabolica entry.
Aggressive, but it was clean. He was given space by Lacombe, but it's going to slow both of them down significantly. Watch behind. That's Kim Fricke giving watch, taking another little sniff of the toe here. Matthews going to now duck back to the inside, and here comes Fricke. It's going to be 3 wide as they approach the Spitzker, and he gets into the back of him. Massive hit. Somehow doesn't come back into either other car, but as he tries to return, unfortunately, he's going to give a little tap to Gary Reese, and that was messy. I fear I was wrong about no more black flags.
Yeah, we may see another one more off of this, and you can see here that the idea, the thought process of this maneuver comes down to the inside here, tries to be able to make that play. Fricke thinks about taking it 3 wide, and then onto the binders. Bam, right there into the back of him. Just didn't anticipate that braking zone, and that's one of the problems here when you're coming along straightaway, and there it is, Yokel trying to get back onto the track, and I think that could earn him a black flag, as that looked like an unsafe release.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. So he could have been a little bit better off, but he might get one as well. Oh my goodness, that was a monster hit. But definitely not to blame for that first nudge that he got, as looked like the car behind just missed his braking point in a big way, and he wound up the victim on that one. Reese coming in, Reese pitting, and he was that one that got hit on the unfortunate return to the track there. So there were many unfortunate victims in that whole situation that just seemed to unravel.
Yeah, and I actually like this call here from Gary Reese. Now, that probably wasn't enough damage to really be able to do some significant damage there to the number 6, but might as well come down into the pits here at this point, take your pit stop. It's a hair on the early side, but you should be able to make it to the end of the race and probably get a spare car. Make sure everything is clean and good to go. So nice heads-up call there from the number 9, excuse me, not the number 6.
Close, just turn it upside down.
Exactly.
So the Vegemite car returns to the track, has gotten his service, and is back out and rolling. Checking out the 22, I think, here, as the cars carry on. This is, the 222, actually. Peter Sigourney of 5th place, being chased by Ben Leon. And that is a lapped car behind him as well. That's Martin Wallace after his penalty. So that's not for position. Just trying to stay out of their way. And for Sigourney, unfortunately, he's got a ways to go up to Chad Dick. It's about 3.5 seconds right now. So he's got a lot of work to do. We check in at Walton, who is behind Ben Leung as well by a fair margin, 3.3 seconds, and also developing his own little train.
Yeah, another one of those little draft trains starting to go the long straightaway here, the parabolic. It certainly brings that out in drivers. But Walton doing a really, really good job to keep everything locked and loaded here. And he's going to be looking up the road there to Leung and Sigourney, that 222 and the 290, as they're going to start to battle a little bit. Walton's going to be very, very keenly aware to see if he sees any one of those drivers moving out, because that's going to allow him to close in a little bit more. He's just got to be careful. He doesn't want to be rear window driving, because we've got a battle there behind him.
While Eddie not only given a penalty, but now he's a DNF. Kim Fricke here battling with Mark Lacombe. He's going to be on the outside, seeing if he could make this one stick. Fricke was the one that had that big run-in with the back of another car not long ago. This time, though, they successfully get down through the Spitzker. Fricke going to be just a nose ahead, but does Mark try and stick his nose back in? No, he is way off the pace down into the kink, so he'll fall back in line into 10th.
Yeah, he's going to have a little bit of a problem there as he tries to get his way back forward. Not able to make that move there. The 330, though, taking a little bit of a peek down into Mobile 1. You do not want to be trying to go too wide through that corner, Joe. That is a one-way ticket to disaster.
Yeah, just not a lot of braking, and it's so narrow into there. So, yeah, I agree. Kind of want to try and get it sorted out before you reach that one. Starting to reach the halfway point, though, now. So will we see a few more cars trying to make a strategy call, maybe try to pit in here, as the 330 of Joachim Baker has been right on the rear bumper of Walton's number 10 for much of this race. And now we're going to glance a little bit farther back. Once again, nice little battle here, back with Tong and Dirksen. Tong leading, Dirksen behind, but a much tidier run there through the final corner for Derek. Is he going to be able to complete the pass? Yes, the long way around and up ahead of him by the time they hit the north curve.
Yeah, he's going to be able to follow there, and that's a very, very good play. Recognized that his opponent just had a bad run off of the corner and was able to take advantage. Now, you normally don't see passes there going into the north curve, but once again, very, very good heads up. Oh, looks like that's green. We'll just call it green. Green machine there, having some bad lines, just not really able to get down to those corners.
Yeah, just has cost him quite a bit here. And behind him, does look like maybe we'll have a pass down into the Spitzker once again. That's Chris Sherburne looking on Ballestieri. No dice. They're going to stay as they are. I've been trying to figure out what's on the top of Ballestieri's car. Ooh, he went way wide coming off of the Spitzker there, and I think that kind of messed up his exit, but he'll stay in 17th, at least for now. Still, that was sketchy for him. He's going to want to try and clean that one up as we check back in once again with Martin Wallace. As I mentioned, a driver that's unfortunately on the recovery is still down in 31st. He's only got two other cars racing behind him.
Yeah, he's only got those two other cars. He's going to have to try to push ahead a little bit more here, but once again, walking away from a race like this at Hockenheim with no incidents and just having a good race, I think that's something that the War Bonnet region can be able to hang his hat on.
Joachim Baker just got by in the background on Robert Walton. There you can see it. Nice move down into the north curve, and that's going to move him up into 6th position. That's pretty brave. That's not usually a corner where you actually see passes stick.
Yeah, it really isn't. Is that's normally a setup corner leading on to that long parabolica, as we've talked about. And so for Joachim here, good heads up, able to make the move, and looks like he's going to be able to hold it.
So remember that incident we had with Jokel and Fricke down to the Spitzker? Well, Jokel did get a black flag for the bad rejoin, and Fricke was given a black flag for running to the back of Jokel. So unfortunately, they're both going to take a little bit of pain at this stage, although Jokel's already had plenty of his. He's been in and out of pit lane now and taken that penalty, as well as having to deal with the damage that he got. As we now watch the fight. Ooh, and looks like Baker's not done with things yet. No, that's a lapped car, excuse me. That is, that's Kevin Haman who's just going to stay out of the way. So nicely done by him. Back to Prescott in the meantime. In the number one machine with Chad Dick giving watch, hoping to try and steal this podium away from him. But they still have not gained on Brooks or Cook. They continue to just run a nice quiet race at the front.
Yeah, and I think here for this point, it is going to be just a two-horse race here for the final step on this podium. We're not going to see Cook or Brooks making an error here that's going to necessarily bring them back into this equation. And I think for Chad, he needs to make that calculus here as he goes forward. Half of this race down, Chad needs to be on full attack here on the back of Prescott. He needs to recognize that he's not racing those cars in front of him and just go for broke to get that final podium spot.
He's certainly keeping him in check. He's staying right there with him. And look at how far away they are from the next car, too. It's another 7 seconds down to Peter Sigourney. So they've been running some impressive pace here as these wide shots really give us a sense of how much they put over on the rest of the field. We've had a number of other drivers come in and take their pit stops. It looks like right now the highest driver to have taken an actual stop, actual service, is Ben Leung right now in the number 290. He sits in 20th position.
Yeah, well down on the order there at this point, but he'll be able to work his way forward. I don't think this is a perfect strategy for Ben. He's a little bit held up with some cars in front of him, but I'm going to be interested to see as these pit stops continue to cycle on through how Ben is going to be able to recover.
He's going to inherit a few, that's for sure, once other drivers come and take their fuel. Wondering what the tire situation is like for the cars in this one. Haven't really been watching. I don't have a good angle as is to see if drivers have been taking tires in pit lane. And that is the 19 of Mark Lacombe, who has been having a pretty bad day, frankly. Just been a few contacts already. And I think we're going to find out what exactly happened with him here. So this is coming out of the Mercedes arena. And since he was in the Sachs curve on the inside of it, I'm going to guess it's happening into that corner itself. Let's see. Both of them cleanly down through Mobile 1. Does he try and send it? Oh, no, he does. And it does not go well.
Well, and Joe, you know, that's a banked corner there coming down through the Sachs curve. And you think that you'd be able to go too wide through there and frankly do a little bit of NASCAR action almost on a banked corner like that. But the truth of the matter is that it's more akin to the carousel coming through the Nordschleife. The top of that circuit actually crowns off a little bit. There you can kind of see it on the screen. The banking is sort of anti-progressive. It flattens out near the top, so it really makes it a one-lane highway through there. And if you try to send a move down to the inside, that's kind of exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, just wound up bad for both of them. And let's see. So who do we have now that is our highest bidder? Looks like it might be Patrick Adamczyk and the number 407, who's now in 18th. So more drivers now taking service. And did we have a problem with Chris Cook? Because he's suddenly grayed out on my screen.
I think we're hearing some reports that he may have just disconnected, Joe.
I see him, disappeared, but I'm not getting an official disconnect here in the sim. So we'll see if he comes back or not. It has been quite some time. Frankly, I would not be shocked if he was given the official boot by the server with him being gone for now quite a while. Up at the front, that is the 47. So the replay is only unfortunately just going to show him blip out of existence, and then we won't know where he is from there. And I'm still not getting... Oh, there it is. There's the official one. Chris Cook, connection drop due to upload packet loss. He is gone.
Oh, my goodness. A heartbreak there up at the front of the field. Our presumptive leader, my goodness.
So Kerry Brooks now inherits the top spot, and Robbie Prescott is now into second. Chad Dick gets promoted onto the podium. It's been turned on its head here. And Cook is trying to reconnect and see if he can salvage something out of this race, but he has got to be just frustrated beyond measure after that one. He had such a big lead.
Yeah, really and truly. And that's one of those internet gremlins that come back to bite here at this point. Remember, we don't have mechanical failures here in sim racing. We don't have those kind of things that take place in real racing, but internet issues, mechanical issues, whether it's dealing with your wheel and pedals, that's kind of the akin one-to-one here at this point. And just heartbreaking here for your former leader.
There is Brooks in the yellow number 77 that is now your new leader in this race. We're getting to where we'll start to see more drivers pitting in. I'm kind of on the fence here. It might actually be Kim Fricke and Robert Walton that our top two have pitted. Now Peter Sigourney, I just saw him come in past us on the lane. But the pit stop times for Fricke and Walton are 4 seconds slower than Adam Chick. That is a drastic amount difference. And there are, so maybe we'll get our answer here, DJ, because that is definitely tires for Peter Sigourney, who is up on the jacks right now. Let's see what his time winds up being.
Yeah, let's see. Indeed, he's going to go up onto the jacks. That's going to be a new set of tires there at that moment. So the 222 here coming in and out of pit lane. Going to come on out right now. Looks like a pretty good stop.
Yeah, that's 17 seconds. So I don't think that's down to tire, like a difference in who takes tire and who doesn't. Now, they can take tires and fuel at the same time, but obviously it can sometimes slow your car if the tires take too long in comparison to putting the fuel in the thing. But at some tracks, it can be valuable enough since it is hot today. Maybe a lot of drivers electing that it is worth trying to put completely fresh rubber on. But for now, it doesn't matter for Sigourney because either he didn't take all four or he just had a nice quick stop out there and he's back out and running. Now the highest driver who has pitted in 11th on screen, this is Prescott, and Dick still trying to challenge for second and third.
Yeah, trying to work their way up forward. This really does change the whole category of the race here at this point. It really and truly is going to open things up a little bit for Brooks. I don't think it's going to change anything for Prescott and Dick necessarily. They're going to still be on that battle as they run.
Got some information in the background. It sounds like we lost Kessel as well, but that was due to VR problems, unfortunately. So his headset not working. And when that happens, you might as well just park it instead of trying to be a danger for anybody out there. And I think there was another problem for the 516 of Sebastiano Ballestieri coming out of the south curve. There he is, trundling in towards the pit entry. Might as well take it now. Let's see what happened. Oh, a little too close to the car in front. Lost his sight. Around she goes.
Yeah, just a little bit too much speed, too much contact there with the driver coming down in front. But at this point, he'll be able to pull it back around. Looks like he came down into pit lane. We check back in on that battle. Now for P2, looks like Chad Dick's been able to close this gap a little bit as traffic has come to play.
I mean, credit to Chad. He's been really awesome in this race, just making sure that he's there or thereabouts if need be. Prescott in front of him, and he's ready to pick up the pieces should Robbie be another driver to have more issues, if anything. Because remember, Robbie lost a few spots a little bit earlier on in this race and has just kind of gotten them back through the sheer luck of racing. But for now, he's going to give it away because Prescott is pitting in.
Yeah, Prescott coming down into pit lane here. I frankly would have thought Chad may have wanted to come down into the pits a little bit earlier, try to get an undercut there on Robbie, but clearly Robbie trying to get out in front of that, so we're going to have to see how this strategy plays. I think now if you're Chad Dick, though, Joe, you run as long as you can. If you've got some clean air, push, 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 push.
Absolutely. He doesn't have that car in front of him, and usually it's the long runs, the long first stint that is the faster strategy in these tin top cars on iRacing. So kind of expecting him to have a bit of an advantage over Prescott, unless Prescott thinks that he just isn't as fast with that car filling his mirrors. He's in and out, and it's a decent stop. Not the fastest we've seen, but Prescott with about 18.2 seconds in his stall. Terrence Tong pitting. I think we saw Peter Sigourney pit earlier. No, it's Mark Lacombe who is also pitting. So a few more drivers up towards the front of the field now coming in and out, but I believe Lacombe has a black flag, so he's going to have to stay in a little bit longer to serve that.
Yeah, so he's going to be down in pit lane just a little bit longer. Not necessarily what he needs to have happen here for Lacombe. Going Going to be unfortunate for him, but he'll be able to make his way back out onto track as we look here at the 330. Joachim Baker promoted up into third place right now. Now remember, Joachim's about, I think, 20 or so seconds behind your leaders and about 15 seconds or so behind that battle for P3. So not really in a good position to be able to capitalize here at this point. I don't think he's really going to be able to get his way onto the podium, but a good run for him nonetheless. Looking at probably a P4 or so finish here today.
And the leader pits in. Kerry Brooks now going to come take fuel, probably tires, get back out there. Chad Dick inherits the lead because of that, and he'll try and push this as far as it can go. Baker doesn't come in. We'll see if Snelling also pits. Definitely tires for Kerry there as he's up on the jacks, waiting for it to plop down and then take off. Looks like it's going to be ready soon. 15, 16, 17, 18 seconds. Another pretty decent stop. Nothing to write home about, but he doesn't need to be lightning quick here. He's just got a solid one, and he's on his way. And yeah, you can't even see Prescott behind him. There he is right there, finally.
Yeah, well off into the distance there. So that is going to be the lead basically maintained there, obviously, as everything else is going to work itself around here. But Prescott coming in and out of pit lane. He's going to have a little bit of traffic in front of him, though, to deal with. That could slow him down a little bit. That could open up an opportunity here for Chad Dick, potentially.
All right, so we're only waiting on Dick, Baker, and Snelling, Sherburne, and Duncan James. But I think, yeah, Duncan James is just pitting in now. So only 4 more cars that need to try and take a pit stop. So the 77 actually just behind David Snelling, and that could be a little bit of bad news, but he pulled such a buffer, DJ. I don't think he's too concerned about this.
I don't think he is either. He should be relatively okay here at this moment, but you still want to try to clear as much as you can. You don't want to get yourself into too much of a problem, and you don't want to put yourself into a position where you've got a slower car in front of you, and not to throw any sort of stones here at some of these lapped cars, but if they're not running at the front of the field, there may be an issue where they may not be as consistent as you, and so you could be putting yourself into an area where they could make an error in front of you and throw you offline.
There we go, Joachim Baker down into his pit stall, and looks very dressed up for the occasion, although he's got the cuffs rolled up to try and maybe give himself a little bit more air on those arms, keep himself cool, a little less sweaty. It looks like also I think David Snelling has pit in, and Chris Sherburne carries on to be the only driver to make it to lap 26. So Brooks is now back in the lead. Chad Dick is back into second, and he has jumped Prescott by 1.6 seconds. That was a massive difference, but Chad Dick's pit stop was 4 seconds quicker. Did he short fill a little too much there?
Well, we will have to see as this comes down to the line. We're going to be able to find out in a couple of ways. Number one, going to be the obvious one if Chad runs out of fuel before the end of this race. Number two, we'll have to keep an eye on his times coming across the line, see what his times are like, and see if he's maybe backing off the throttle a little bit, coming into some of these heavy braking zones, doing a little bit of lift and coast down into the corners.
Checking to see if I can watch his pit stop here. Okay, he did take tires. Interesting. Maybe just only took 2 or 1 or something that allowed him to go that much quicker. That is very interesting. Chad Dick just trying to see if he can outrun Prescott here as we come back to David Glenn now in the battle for what is 15th position between Glenn and Dirksen. On board, David looking forward, though. That is Gary Reese just up ahead of us. Dirksen started this race in 24th. He's up 9 and 16th, but that is really eclipsed by Glenn. Started 32nd out of 39, and he's up 17 positions to be 15th right now.
That's a very, very impressive run there for him. I am very, very impressed that he's been able to make his way up through the field, especially at a track where we've seen, frankly, a lot of these drivers having problems here today, finding themselves off. David's just kept all 4 tires on the black stuff and worked his way forward.
Indeed. So this will be a very handy day. This is after pit stops are done. So David Glenn, it looks like he took an early stop. So that probably helped on that one because it was 12 laps ago. But regardless, do what you got to do to try and get yourself that clear track and start laying down some hot ones. That's what Chad Dick's trying to do right now, up here in second place, still about a second ahead of Prescott. And we won't know Chad Dick's real pace here until this lap by, because the last lap was his out lap. So we need to wait to really kind of measure to see if Prescott is going to gun him down.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait and see here at this point. And again, they've got enough of a gap back to P4 behind them that I think for Prescott, he can kind of laser focus up ahead and really, really try to get that push down. As we check back in on your leader here in that number 77 machine up at the front of the field, working his way on through. I'm going to be very interested to see, though, what Chad's pace is going to be and how he's going to be able to cover this, because he may have come out of the pits and he may not have realized he's short-fueled until maybe right about now, and now he's got to do a lip with the short fueling.
Remember how far ahead we saw Gary Reese on David Glenn last time we saw that? Well, that changed up quickly. Gary Reese apparently slow through the Spitzkura, and Glenn just pounced on it and took the spot and is now ahead. So there you can see David Glenn riding in 14th place. Dirksen was not quite able to do the same, although he managed to get it 3 wide briefly.
Yeah, managed to get it 3 wide there briefly, which is a very, very sketchy thing to do, I've got to say, but able to keep it together as we watch this little battle coming down now into the south curve. Trying to roll as much momentum as they can, bring their way out on through, onto the front straightaway here. I don't think we're going to be seeing any moves, but watch for them to set everything up going down into the Parabolica.
Absolutely. So this is just outside of the top 10. Drivers trying their hardest to get up there and get whatever points and pride that they can. Also worth noting, I hadn't caught this before, but our producers has seen that Chad Dick looks like he's actually gaining on Kerry Brooks. Let me check the lap times.
Well, Joe, we may have to throw that idea of Chad saving a little bit of fuel here out the window if Chad is able to close down here on your leader, who we thought was absolutely untouchable at the start of the day.
In fact, if I'm seeing right, I think Chad Dick has the fastest lap of the race right now. So, yeah, he is really on fire. It's down to 2.7 seconds. He set that lap last time by. This time a 38.7, so not quite as fast. That's a 0.2 off. But it was 39.3 for Kerry Brooks. Chad Dick, way, way faster than the leader.
I'm not an expert here, Joe, but I think we might have a little bit of a race on our hands up for the lead of this race.
I would hope you're the expert. You're the commentator.
I was trying to play my credentials down a little bit.
So, yeah, but you're right. I think this is going to get a lot more exciting. I didn't think that they were going to be anywhere near Kerry Brooks, and he was going to be able to scoot away from everybody. But no, this has been cut down in the last 2 laps by a big, big margin. And that car in front of him right now, that is Martin Wallace. That is a lapped car. We got another one coming into pit lane there. Who was that? That is the 777. So that's Mario Gonzalez.
Yeah, it looks like that car's just slow there coming down through the Sachs curve. I think he may have picked up some damage earlier on the
black flag. I'm seeing. Yeah, they do have an incident limit here, 17 incidents, and you get a drive-through penalty, and that's exactly what it was. He was in and he was out. So poor Mario just overstepped the bounds too many times, and certainly not going to be up for that $250 gift certificate at that rate.
Yeah, certainly not there at that point. He's going to be a little bit off at this moment, but he'll be able to come back in and out and get back on his way here as they go. We check back in on your leader right now. There is the visualization of that gap starting to close here as the laps continue to tick away.
39.1 that time for Brooks. Chad Dick with a 39.2. So Brooks has responded and was slightly faster. He doesn't have to be that much faster. It's about 3 seconds between them. And with 11 minutes left, all he really needs to do is just kind of mind the gap, if you will.
Yeah, he just needs to focus here as much as possible and work his way forward. Now, there's going to be a little bit of lap traffic that Chad's going to have to get through before he gets up to the front of the field. And I think here for the 77, he is just going to have to try to get by everybody as quickly as possible. Close in, focus in on his apex. Don't make a mistake here and just don't push, Joe. Just run consistently, and he may be able to run this clock out.
Here's the other question in this, DJ. We've been seeing quite a bit of lap traffic. We only have 27 cars left on the lead lap here, so about a quarter of the field has been lapped. I wonder if maybe that's what's causing a little bit of this fluctuation, that Brooks and Dick are just having to kind of manage that traffic, and that's what's seeing the yo-yoing.
Yeah, I think it very well could be, because for as many wide open areas as there are on this circuit going down through the Parabolica and on the run into Mercedes, I mean, when we talk about this final sector of the track, we talk about the north and the south curves here at this point, they're pretty much one-way streets, and it's very easy to get held up behind another person.
All right, they're coming around to the line once again. Here's our leader with his onboard as he gets ready to set the time across. 39 flat, going continually quicker. So yeah, Brooks is picking it up, but Dick that time also picked it up, 38.8. So another 2/10 chopped off. That's not going to be enough of a margin. He needs what he had a couple laps ago to really make this a possibility.
Yeah, he's got to really try to buckle down here at this point, but this may be the area where the little bit of that fuel saving is going to come into play. If Chad underfueled the car here, he's not going to be able to go into full push mode.
Yeah, I think you're right. While we wait for that to try and bubble up, I wonder if we could take a look at Walton and Snelling in 6th and 7th, because that's becoming quite the little tussle here between these pair. Snelling putting the pressure on to the yellow number 10. In fact, it wasn't a great exit coming out of the north curve. The Parabolica entry sees Snelling take a little bit of a look down to the inside. Can he make it stick, though? Is he going to overshoot the corner? Does manage to keep it tucked in, and that's going to give him the spot.
That's a good move there for Snelling to be able to get that one to play. Pass on by Robert Walton. And crucially here, Walton's not able to get the run there out of that corner to really and truly get a counterattack down the Parabolica.
And this is Joachim Baker. He just overtook Sigourney. So that was down to the Spitzkura. A lot of action happening here late in the race towards the sharp end of the field. Just was not expecting this at all. Figured it was going to be kind of calm to the end, the way they had separated so early, but down to the Spitzkura just behind them once again. Look at this massive train of cars being led by David Glenn there in 12th. That's Reese, Franco, Tong, Dirksen, and Holmes, as well as Mazzariello. That's every single car is for position.
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very fierce battle in about the final 8 minutes of this race as they bring their way down through here. And once again, Joe, this is going to be a little bit of that draft train that we talked about. Some of these drivers in the mid-pack, they're not going to be able to get the runs that they want to down the Parabolica because the car in front of them is getting the same toe off of the car in front of them. So you've got to be a little bit more aggressive here if you're farther back in this order to try to make a position up.
Bad news for fans of David Snelling after he made that brilliant move on Walton. He dipped a tire into the dirt out of the Sachs curve and gave it right back, along with Adamczyk managing to go by. So Snelling's down to 8th, unfortunately. We continue to watch this battle here just behind them. And as they come into the north curve, nobody close enough here for a move. Maybe it could be onto the Parabolica, as that corner exit is very tricky the way it weaves back and forth.
Yeah, it's not an easy corner to be able to take. There we follow them all the way on through, trying to be able to see what they're able to do. Looks like some good runs a little bit farther back in that pack as they're going to get on the loud pedal here down the Parabolica. Now that may be just enough of a gap. Here comes a little bit of a run indeed.
Getting awful close to Tong. That is Dirksen that we see there. And up in front of them, is that a lapped car? That's Madsen. Over and Glenn, and then someone on the outside that is a lapped car, excuse me, that's Kevin Haman letting them by. Meanwhile, Tong ahead of Dirksen, so move the 388 into 15th. This latest lap for Brooks, 39.5, Dick, a 39.8. Yeah, the last 2 laps have been slower for Chad Dick. I think either the traffic or something is eating up that 9:30 now.
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of a little bit of the traffic here at this point, Joe, and a lot of probably fuel saving that he's having to back off the car a little bit more and keep everything under control and not necessarily push as much as he wants to.
And only 5 minutes left. It's coming down to it. Probably have about 3 or 4 laps left on the clock. Chad Dick, we watch from his perspective. That is a lapped car in front of him. That's Peter Coomer. And then the next one up the road that you just see little hints of is Kerry Brooks. They've got a gap over Prescott, who, after they came out of the pits, I thought it was going to be Prescott chasing Dick, but he's not been able to run him down either, and has been held at bay. Still, as I said earlier, Prescott's third place, not too big of a worry right now. It could just be maybe damage limitation for him.
Yeah, I think it could just be a little bit of hold on and pray here at this point to try to get his way on through and hope that he's going to have a little bit of a good run. Ooh, that's not good, though. Kerry going to be held up a little bit behind some lapped cars here at this point. That could maybe put Chad back into play.
Absolutely. And like I said, the traffic, I think, has been wreaking havoc on them. By the way, David Glenn managed to make a pass on Matson. Although Glenn just went extremely wide. Is 3 wide coming down into the first turn. Brooks makes it work. That was Ambrosino, and Bowers actually battling for position. Coomer was not a part of that fight for position, but somehow they made it work without anybody winding up at the side of the track, and poor Chad Dick now has to deal with them as well. Look at this. This is madness.
This is absolutely crazy. Chad's trying to piece his way through this to get on by, but I'm not sure there is a way on by for your P2 car. He's going to try to thread the needle here coming down, but he's got to be very, very careful. That's a sketchy thing to do. Chad's going to go for it, though, later on the binders. Great respect shown by the lapped cars, and Chad is up and on through.
And they're still fighting for position side by side, but Bowers on the inside of Ambrosino, I think, is not going to do the job. Ambrosino with a better exit. Chad Dick, unfortunately, lost a lot of time. He's now up to 3 seconds behind Brooks. It was down to about 2.4 for a brief while. It continues to flow back and forth. Last one for Brooks was down to a 40.6. Chad Dick with a 39.7. That was the first lap in some time. He was faster, but they're still running somewhat slow laps compared to how they started this race. I'm starting to buy the theory that it was indeed a little bit of under fueling that they're having to manage it, as that is Terrence Tong off at the parabolic entry.
There to Terrence. I wonder if that maybe have been a little bit of contact. We saw him involved in some battles a little bit earlier on. Let's take a look here at the replay. Looks like a decent line there coming through turn 1.
I think this is live, actually.
Oh, is it live?
Oh, is it? No, you're right. It is a replay. Excuse me.
There we go. As he's going to, big dive, big comb, and big kathunk coming down into the corner.
Yep, kind of sandwiched in there, got a hit from behind, had no place to go. Thankfully, didn't spin the car in front. I think that was Dirksen that got into him. I would not be shocked if that also elicited a penalty in front of them. There's a spin, though, and that spins out Dirksen as well. It was Gary Reese who initially got turned around, and there is Derek off at the side of the track. Things just absolutely falling apart in what was a huge train of cars not long ago.
Yeah, absolutely coming to blows here at this point with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left to go in this race. You can certainly tell that everybody is absolutely firing on all cylinders, trying to be able to get their way forward. They can tell that these positions are up for grabs.
Yeah, car was off and just couldn't get the throttle down. Around it goes. Couldn't tell if he had any sort of contact in there from that angle, but it does look like Derek has now been given a black flag for that contact that he made a little bit earlier. So he's going to have to come in, and Gary Reese is actually spun out right now over at pit entry. Not sure what's going on there, as we continue to follow them down to the last moments. And we're going to get the white flag this time for Kerry Brooks, actually.
All right, so Kerry's just got to hold on for a little bit longer here at this point. I think he's got enough of a gap over Chad to be able to let this go at this point, and he's got some clear road up in front of him, so he's just got to hold.
Yeah, he was quicker last lap once again. It's going to have to take a big mistake from the 77 here to give this one away. 39.4 versus a 39.3, but just barely. It's hundredths of a second away from each other on that lap between the 77 and the 930. But Prescott has actually been chipping away at things. He's got it down to only a second behind Chad Dick. If he manages to get just the tiniest of hiccup out of that 930, he could have a chance to pounce.
Yeah, very well could. He's going to be just a hair out of the range here to make this work coming down into the Spitzkara. But you never know. Maybe a little bit of mistake here from Chad. Again, fuel conservation, that fuel number for Chad, a big, big question here. Maybe he's really having to back off down into the corners.
Yeah, we've been seeing him almost slightly off pace, but I don't know. It's It's still uncertain in my mind if he is having to manage it or not. And Prescott was clean off of the Spitzker. It's down to 0.8 of a second. Let's see what it looks like here. If it is close, he's going to have to really start giving it up some, as he was wide now down through Mercedes. It's down to 0.6 of a second. It's not looking good for Prescott.
No, it's certainly not, but here we go, coming down into Mercedes Mobile 1, excuse me, I'm trying to combine those two corners here. Here they go, working their way through, trying to see if he can make this work. I don't know if he can make it play.
And we got to go to Kerry Brooks, because while this did fall into his lap a little bit, the 77 grabbed the opportunity with both hands. And here on home soil for Porsche, Kerry will take the win at Hockenheim.
A great run here for Kerry Brooks. Got it a little bit gifted to him, but we've got to give that 77 credit. He got the lead, and he never let it go.
Chad was only 0.4 of a second ahead of Robbie at the line. So that was a tight one for second, as David Snelling down in 7th place sees Ben Leung filling his mirrors.
Yeah, Ben's going to try to make a little bit of a play here down into the Sachs curve, but we've talked about that's a difficult area to make a pass. Going to try to get something to play. Not looking like it's going to. I think David may have this one at bay for a while.
He's got to be clean, though, through the south curve. I've always found this one to be a pretty tricky corner, especially with that outside curb. And, yeah, it looks like he's far enough ahead that he should be okay. Terrence Tong, in the meantime, is suddenly dealing with Mike Matson behind him, as Matson was quite a bit in front of him not long ago, but there's been so much craziness back in this group that has reversed around. Tong pulls out a few car lengths ahead. Is he clear? Yeah, looks like it. So 15th place here for Terrence Tong, and Matson holds Fricky behind him as well. Balistieri going to be among the last drivers across the line. Only 22 will finish all 36 laps here today, and Balistieri gets 19th place. Duncan has to settle for 20th. That's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so make sure and stick around. A little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way. And the 77 wound up picking it up and bringing it home there with the win. Chad Dick with second was ahead of Robbie Prescott, who he leapfrogged in the pit stops. Nicely done by Chad. Prescott, our points leader, should still be comfortably up at the top, though. Jochen Baker was fourth, up from 12th. A good climb. Peter Sigourney was fifth, and Robert Walton was sixth. And it was David Snelling, P7, and Ben Leung, eighth. Patrick Adamczyk up 18 spots to finish ninth. And then how about Chris Sherburne up 20 to finish 10th?
In 11th, it was David Glenn, followed by Brett Hums. Jeremy Ranciello able to hold on to 13th there, followed by Richard Franco as we get into that battle that we were really following over the course of the run. Richard Franco 14th, followed by Terrence Tong, then Mike Matson, Kim Fricke, Chris Cook, Sebastiano Ballestieri, and Chip Witt rounding out your top 20.
There you see the rest of the field. As I said, many of them wound up a lap down with only 22 finishing on the lead lap of our 39 starters, and a few not even getting to do much of the race, having to exit out early. I believe this will take us to Kerry Brooks, our winner here, and love to hear what was going on with him there. Here. And we'll drag him in as we've got Kerry with us now in the number 77. Kerry, congratulations on the win there. It looked like you got a little bit nervous at the end as Chad was starting to gain on you. Were you kind of managing the race at the time, or what allowed him to cut that down a bit?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Well, I understand he took one less tire than I did, which in the pit stop gave him a bit of an edge. And there was some traffic to work through. I mean, first of all, I would like to say everyone did an awesome job at trying to manage us coming through. Sometimes there was a few times it was a little sketchy. But honestly, Joe, I was really just trying to manage the gap. I had around 3 seconds. I think it dipped down to 2 at one point, but really was just this track is about managing tires as far as I understand, and that's all I tried to do.
Obviously, you had a little bit of help because, unfortunately, up at the front, Chris Cook had a disconnect, and that kind of gifted you the lead. But I got to think when those sorts of things happen, especially with the speed that Chris was showing, you just kind of got to take it as it comes.
You know what? He was the class. For sure, he was gone. I mean, I was managing, but he was clearly doing the same thing, and he was just plain and simply faster. And you hate to have one of those races be a throwaway. I feel so bad for him. I reflect back on last race. I felt like I was the fastest, and I did some things wrong and sort of gave up the win, and I feel bad for him giving up the win. But at the end of the day, it is racing. And, things happen, and here we are. I'm really happy and excited and grateful to be in the winner's circle.
Well, besides the blips at Suzuka and Spa, you've really responded in recent races and trying to close that gap down to Robbie Prescott. 2 more races to go, I believe. Do you have what it takes to try and cut it down and take the crown?
And I am going to give it everything I have. Robbie is he is on fire, and so is Chris. I mean, Chris has really just come alive through the second half of this season. So, we're not the only ones out there. Joe had an amazing race last week, so I'm not exactly sure where all the points are landing, but I know it's going to be fight, and I know that my throwaways are done, so I have to be perfect from here on out.
Yeah, that's always the unfortunate thing when you have those hiccups. Yeah, you got the safety net, but it's gone. So congratulations regardless, and impressive drive at the front.
Thanks very much, Joe. I really appreciate it. I'd like to just give a shout out if I could. I've missed a couple opportunities, but Nikki at last 10th for helping me improve my racecraft dramatically. Thank you so much, my friend.
That was Kerry Brooks, your winner here today after starting from second position. And I do believe that DJ has caught up with second place, Chad Dick.
I have indeed, Chat. A great run there out for you. A second place. I want to take you back to the pit stop. We just heard from Kerry that you may have taken one less tire. Was that all that was able to get you out there and ahead?
Yeah, it was part of our pit strategy. We were planning on 3, but given that I was able to save tires and fuel most of the race, we just gambled and hoped my tire condition would be better than it was in my test last night when I took 3. So we only took the lefts this time, and it saved me 3 seconds in the pit, and I think that made the difference.
Well, it certainly did work out for you there. How close do you think you were coming? I mean, could you taste it there? It looked like you were just closing down on Kerry. It was very, very close.
Well, I was just laughing about that with him because he and I did a practice race last night, and he did not take tires in it, and I took 3, and I ate him alive after the pit stops. I mean, he had no pace, couldn't hold the corners, and then tonight, of course, was totally different ball of wax. I was like, he took tires, didn't he? So I could get close occasionally when traffic got in the way, but I kind of knew with fresh tires on both of our cars, I don't think I can match his pace. He's a little quicker than I am. So my goal was to just kind of keep it clean, hit my marks. stay behind him. That was kind of my goal for the whole race was, just be patient knowing that most of the moves are going to take place after the pits. And the important thing is to not wreck the car and, not get a black flag for incidents or anything like that. Just run clean.
Well, you certainly were able to do that and run a very, very good race. I have to ask you, were you worried about Robbie coming up behind you? Because it did look like you were especially starting to get some pressure near the end.
Only on the last lap. All of a sudden I looked up and he was under a second. I was like, oh, he's pushing again. I think I'm not sure if he was pushing earlier in the race or if he just didn't have a draft in front of him. I was drafting most of the race before the pit. So I was lifting and drafting and saving gas and tires into almost every turn, which I think is what enabled me to only take 2 tires. And I was just hoping that, good tire condition at the end, even though I only had a second gap to him, I could hold him off. So, I let him get back into it a little bit there. I think I had maybe a mistake going into turn 2. I went a little wide. But other than that, kind of went according to plan, which, as the A-team says, I love it when a plan comes together.
Well, we do as well. Chad, a great run here for you. Who makes it possible?
Oh, man, it's been so long since I've gotten to talk to you guys. If you give me about 15 minutes. No, I'm kidding. Just a few people. I mean, my spotter, as usual, Chris Braun. I mean, he and I were talking through the strategy the whole race. Got to give a shout-out to Derek Cyphers, who helped me with some telemetry this week. I was trying to find those last few tenths to try and catch up to those guys in the front. All my teammates at Mazur, the marginally above average sim racers, Flying Lion Racing, and even Matrix. Lyle was in front of me, and I was drafting and sort of just following his line. So it's good to have teammates on track. Robbie's a teammate of mine in another league we race in too. So, I think that's what helps keep it clean. And then lastly, I've been doing a lot of coaching with Nikki Chan last 10th this season, and it has made a huge difference. He's helped me kind of clean up, syncing up my inputs with my line and maximizing grip on track. And I feel like, I'm a conservative driver, so getting me to push to the limits is hard to do, and he's helping me find the edge and find the limit. So I think all that really came together. And then, of course, you guys, the steering committee, race control, everybody who volunteers to put all this production together. It's, can't do it without the whole village. So very grateful that we have these races to look forward to every couple of weeks. It's a ton of fun.
Well, we're grateful to be able to call it, Chad. Thank you so much for joining us up here in the booth, and congratulations on a well-deserved second place.
Thanks again, man. It's nice to talk to you.
You as well. Joe, that was Chad Dick, your second place finisher here at Hockenheim.
And I believe that's going to take us to Robbie Prescott here, who finished third and came in as our points leader. Robbie, a third place. I'm sure he would have liked a little bit higher, but still another good point stay for you. It almost looked like it wasn't going to happen at one point, though. What was with the hiccup there down in the stadium section?
I don't know. That's never happened to me before at all during this. During practicing or nothing. Haven't had anything. And then I was following right up behind Kerry, and next thing you know, I just take the turn how I normally was behind him, and I just had a huge back end just snap on me, probably from the aero wash a little bit, and maybe I hit the curb just a bit too much or something, and then it just sent me into the grass, and my whole biggest thing was not to shunt it into a wall, because I was not about to end my race. But luckily I was able to kind of get it back on track. I knew I could pass those guys pretty quick, and luckily I got around him back into P3 and tried to hold on to that as long as I could.
Yeah, that was a pretty impressive recovery. Helped a little bit by some issues for others. Now, once you'd gotten back in a second, were you a bit shocked when suddenly Chad Dick was in front of you, or did you kind of know that strategy call was coming?
I was I love Chad. We talk all the time. We practice, but I was expecting just to walk away out of the pits because I was gonna have fresh tires. I knew we could lay down some pretty fast laps in the 38s and kind of see if I could make a run at Kerry. And then it turns out he only took 2 tires in the pits, and I ended up taking 3. I thought 3 tires were free, and no matter if you took whatever, it would be the same. But turns out I was totally wrong, and that's a mistake that I will learn from next time. But I mean, kudos to him, Kerry, and Chad and who was it, Chris. Even though he disconnected, I mean, those guys were the real podium winners tonight. I mean, with the way I was driving, I mean, I'm thankful I walked away with P3, but those 3 guys right there are your true winners tonight.
Well, sometimes it's less about who is the fastest over one lap and who gets to that finish line first instead. But so you did earn that third place. Now, Kerry said that he's going to try his best to see if he can give you a run for your money. And like I said, you came in as the points leader, but with what we've been seeing from Chad, from Kerry, as well from Chris, it looks like this is going to be pretty heated competition in the final 2 races.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. Kerry and Cook, they definitely have a lot lower drop races than me. I mean, my lowest race or my worst finish so far is 2 third places, and then my rest are a second and a bunch of first. And after Chris disconnecting tonight and Kerry had those unfortunate spins the past couple races, I think it's going to make us pretty close to see whose drop races are going to affect you the least. So I'm still hoping I'm in a good spot, but I mean, these boys are putting in the work. Chris and Kerry are absolutely killing the game right now, and they're going to make me work extra hard to battle out and keep that front spot. So I know this club class championship is not on lock, and they're going to make me work extra hard, and I'm ready to get to work and battle it out with them because they're putting in that work. So it's time for me to get cooking on Watkins Glen in that P Cup, and let's go.
I love that attitude. Well, congratulations on yet another podium this in Series 10. Anybody you want to thank?
Oh, for sure. Jesse Lyon, my spotter. After I spun, you could probably guess what I was saying, and he kind of helped me kind of stay calm, keep the negative thoughts out of my head, and kind of keep this positive self-talk of trying to work my way slowly back into it. And even though I did kind of lose some time, I mean, he got me back into it where I was closing on Chad pretty quick, and we got the gap on Kerry a little bit down. So if it wasn't for him, I would have been all negative and been like, what the heck is this? But because of him, he was able to keep my head on straight and have that positive self-talk attitude going. And then obviously all my friends, parents, the Phoenix Racing crew, everybody else in PCA, and then you boys in the booth. This has been a fun series, and we're going to have to work to get this thing done.
Thank you very much. And everybody, even the best, needs a coach behind them to help out. So that was Robbie Prescott, who finished 3rd here today. And I think that's going to wrap us up. So we, of course, want to give a big thank you and remind you that you should join us here tomorrow night, because on Thursday, May 25th at 9:25 p.m. Eastern, we're back for the Pro Class. We'd like to thank our sponsors for Series 10, and that is the Porsche Exchange, along with Six Sigma Sim Racing. A big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Gary, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track. Yay!